The 80s and 90s were great times to be a kid. Join me as I dive into the world of movies, music, video games, and toys, and explore what made these decades so great. This is the Big Retro Show.
What is up, everybody? This is Los from the Big Retro Show, and today on the Big Retro Show, I'm going to be answering all of the questions that you guys asked me as part of my 300 subscribers special. So I asked each one of you guys to write me some questions, to ask me some questions via Twitter and via YouTube, and these are the questions that you asked me. So I'm going to be answering them, and away we go. So the first question I have is from Do You Nerd? What's a retro popular property or franchise that you've missed out on and still have yet to dive into? Well, that is a great question, Tom and Lacey. I think that I have not gotten into any Smash Brothers games. I own a few of them. I know I own the GameCube one and the Wii one. I don't own the Wii U or the Nintendo Switch versions of Smash Brothers, but that is a franchise that I've always wanted to get into, but I never have, and I don't really have a good reason for why I haven't gotten into that franchise yet. I think it has to do with, like, you know, fighting with Mario and Yoshi and all the characters and stuff. It's all so very cartoony for me. I'm a fighting genre fan, but I like my genre, my fighting games, I like them bloody and a little bit more kind of grittier than that. And I think that's why I haven't gotten into the Smash Brothers series, but I want to, I really do. And so, you know, maybe one of these days when the backlog is a little bit down, maybe I'll get into it. So the next question comes from Retro Days, and Retro Days wants to know, what is a more obscure property, movie, TV series, comic, video game, toy, etc., that you really enjoyed from the 80s or 90s? Well, I have many of them. Once upon a time, there was a show on TV, and it was called Manimal. And I can't remember exactly what the show had to do with, but all I can remember was that it had to do with this guy who was able to transform into a variety of animals. And I remember watching this show and thinking, wow, these are some awesome special effects. Every time that the guy would turn into a different animal, you could see the transformation, and it was almost like he was transforming into a werewolf. But you know, he could transform into a hawk, into like I think it was like a lion or a tiger or a cheetah or something, I forget. But it was one of those shows that was really obscure that I bet you like everyone has forgotten about. But it's called Manimal. You guys should check that show out. Thank you for the question. Next up, we have a question from Level 1 Online. Level 1 Online wants to know, if you had to choose one of your videos, a video that defines your channel, what would it be? That is a great question, Level 1 Online. I think the video that defines my channel best is the welcome video that I did. It was the very first video that I kicked off the channel with, and it talks about all of the things that I was going to talk about on the Big Retro Show. And I think that one is like the video that I think after looking back on it, I can kind of see where I diverged from the original intent of the show, which was talk about movies, music, video games, and toys. And you know, mostly I've been talking about video games for the past you know, few months that I've been doing the channel. And that's because it's really difficult to feature movie footage and music footage and music because of copyright. And so when I first started the channel, I didn't know that it was going to be so easy for people to copyright your videos and to claim the videos so that you couldn't monetize them, or at least the monetization would go to them. And so, you know, I kind of was going into the whole YouTube thing blindly. And that video kind of shows my blindness, if you will, my innocence over YouTube, thinking that I could just, throw up a video or throw up a song, that I wanted to talk about, and then it would be fair use. But obviously that's not the case. I've gotten a few claims on my videos, especially the earlier ones that I did, because I used footage that didn't belong to me. But I have learned shortcuts, some ways to kind of use footage and use especially music video footage in my episodes that will make it less known to the algorithm, so it won't get flagged automatically or anything like that. But I'm looking to go back to doing a lot of more movies and toys and music on the channel. But video games is just one of my passions, right? I mean, we're all video gamers and we all love video games, and so for me anyways, the show is all about having fun and all about talking about the things that you love. And so video games I love, and so I'm having a ball doing it. But thank you for that question. All right, so the next question comes to us from Brent's Basement. He asks, if you had to pick one video that you've done, which are you most proud of and why? So I think this is an easy choice for me, and the video that I think I'm most proud of is the Scary Sega Master System video. Now this was a video that I did for Halloween, and it was one of the many that I did for Halloween, but it was a video that kind of took me out of my comfort zone, especially with the editing program that I was using. I had to learn how to turn myself into a ghost, and so I never had done that before. And it took me a little bit to figure it out. I mostly used YouTube videos to kind of show me what to do, and that's really kind of how I learned everything, right? Just going on YouTube and typing up how to turn yourself into a ghost in DaVinci Resolve. That's the program that I use, and I learned how to do it like that, and I'm really happy with the way that the video turned out. But I kind of look at the video and say, yeah, wow, that's a pretty cool effect, and I had never learned how to do that prior to going on to YouTube and learning it. And I never would have actually had the desire to do it if I didn't have a channel. So I think I'm most proud of that video. Thank you very much, Brent. Okay, the next question comes to us from Green Plantain. Green Plantain wants to know, if you were a serial killer, what memento would you take from your victims? Probably a driver's license. Yes, a driver's license. The next question comes to us from Retro Crunch. Retro Crunch wants to know, in detail, please explain your deep and unbridled obsession with Retro Crunch. But no, seriously, explain it. Okay, I will do that. I will talk to you about why I think Retro Crunch is a cool channel. And if you guys have not heard of Retro Crunch, you are missing out, guys. Go over there right now and subscribe. So Retro Crunch is a channel that crunches all of the good retro content, everything from movies, music, video games, toys, all of that old school nostalgia. He crunches it all together and he talks about it on his channel. And what I love about that channel is that it gives you news, like news that is happening today that involves lots of retro intellectual properties. So I get a lot of the news, the retro news from Retro Crunch, and that's why I enjoy watching you, Scott, over at Retro Crunch. And all of the YouTubers that have asked me a question, you guys should check them out. Really, go to their channels and subscribe to their channels. Go to Retro Crunch, go to Level 1 Online, go to Retro Days, go to Do You Nerd, go to Brent's Basement. Go to Green Plantain's channel and go and check them out and subscribe to them. I think you will not be disappointed. The next question comes to us from Terminal Goat. Terminal Goat wants to know, what is your favorite NES game? Wow, there are so many favorite NES games that, this one I had to kind of rack my brain, because how do you choose just one, right? I mean, they're all so great. Well, not, everything but Back to the Future, and I'm looking at you, Cap. I think that my favorite, the one that I always go back to, is Super Mario Bros. 3. And that is because the game is just, it stands the test of time. Everything from the graphics to the gameplay to the cool uniforms that you get, the power-ups that you get. I still love playing that game, and that's one that I always return to. No matter what I'm doing, I always want to play Super Mario Bros. 3. I think that's because Super Mario Bros. 3 came out late in the Nintendo console's life. And by then they had perfected how to program for this thing, and they really squeezed every bit of fun that they could out of the Nintendo with Super Mario Bros. 3. So, thank you for that question, Terminal Goat. This is a good one, and this one had me thinking really hard. So this one comes to us from Nefarious West. Nefarious West wants to know, what 5 obscure albums do you listen to that you would recommend to others? Stuff that isn't too mainstream. Alright, so these are the albums that I chose. And you guys might have heard of some of them, but then again, you might have not. And it's a mix of them. Like, I'm very much a musical whore. I don't have no allegiance to any musical genre. I love all kinds of music, much in the same way that I love all kinds of video games. So, my first pick is Horse the Band's Arborlax. Awesome album. They have a few tracks on there, but I think my favorite one is Cutsman. And if you haven't heard of Horse the Band, they are a Nintendo core band that is kind of like thrash metal, but it is an awesome album. The next is Thrice, Artist in an Ambulance. I love this CD. I recently found it again over at a thrift store. I popped it in and I just listened to that CD on my way to work every single day. I love that CD. Up next is a rap album. It's called The Genie of the Lamp by none other than the Bay Area legend Mac Dre. I'm sure you guys have heard of Mac Dre. Mac Dre is a legend here around these parts. He's a legend everywhere, really. But he was killed, unfortunately. But this album is all we have left of him. Him and all of his other works, but this is one of the albums that stuck with me. So Genie of the Lamp by Mac Dre is definitely one of those albums that you need to listen to. Another kind of underground, obscure album that nobody knows about is another regional hit, I think. It's called Straight Out of the Lab by the Get Low Playas. These guys were the bomb. This album is every bit as good as any rap album that you've ever heard. I think it's really the Northern California version of Dr. Dre's The Chronic. The GLP, the Get Low Playas, if you guys haven't heard of that, then definitely go check that out. And lastly, I chose for the obscure albums, and I'm not really sure if this one's obscure or not, but I definitely know that this band has passed its heyday, because it was one of those 90s rock bands. It's the Deftones' Koi no Yokan. And this has tons of good songs on it. I love this song. If you want to just chill, it kind of has that vibe to it. It's got a little heavier edge to it though, but it is still a great album to have. And if you want to know what Koi no Yokan means, I guess it's not quite like love at first sight, but it's seeing somebody who you kind of know you're going to fall in love with. Perfect name for an album. And thank you very much for that, Nefarious West. Next up comes a question from Maverick. Maverick has several of them, so we're going to take these one by one. So Maverick wants to know, what's your favorite and least favorite video game? I think the favorite game right now, and it changes, it does, guys, because I just play so many games, is Gears 5. I'm playing some Gears 5 right now. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's an awesome game. It's taking me back all to the Gears universe. Great game to play, and I'm really enjoying this game. Let's see, my least favorite, Bloodborne. Really hate that game. I just can't get into it. That's probably going to be an unpopular gaming opinion down the line, and I'll explain to you why I do not like Bloodborne. The next question from Maverick is, how long have you started collecting? So I've been collecting like seriously since the late 90s, and I started by going to flea markets where I would pick up Nintendo games for $5 each. So back then, all of the games, no matter what they were $5 each, and that's kind of how I started collecting. But I don't really see myself as a collector. I see myself more as a gamer than a collector. I have a moderate collection. It's kind of a small collection compared to some people on YouTube who have these, walls of games and whatnot. But I don't have a wall of games. I have maybe a bookshelf, maybe 2 bookshelves. And I consider that a small collection. So I don't really like collecting them anymore, and that's just because I ran out of room. I don't have any more room for them. This cave that I'm in right now doesn't have as much room as I would like it to have. And so maybe if I had another room, if I had like a whole wall dedicated to video games, then I would probably start collecting more. What program do you use to edit your videos, and would you recommend it? So I started out using Final Cut Pro X, and I became kind of proficient at using it, except my Mac Mini that I was editing on really sucked. It was really slow. It would take forever to render, and I finally got fed up, and during last year, during my birthday, around the time of my birthday, I picked up a brand new laptop. It was an Alienware laptop, and this thing renders like a champ. Obviously, I couldn't use Final Cut Pro X anymore because that's an Apple product and it doesn't work on PCs. And so, I asked a question on Twitter, and it was actually Blazing Camel Gaming who had recommended DaVinci Resolve. And I downloaded it. It's free. I use the free version. They also have a paid version too, but it's very much like Adobe Premiere, I believe. And I know how to use Adobe Premiere too, so this was kind of easy for me to pick up, and so I would highly recommend it, especially because it's free. Thank you very much for those questions, Maverick. Now we're gonna have a question from Retro Mikey. Retro Mikey wants to know, what is your favorite console and game? Well, here at the Big Retro Show, I do not consider myself a fanboy of any system, but if I had to choose one, as you're making me do, I think that the Sega Genesis is probably my favorite of all time, and that's because I think what's not to love about the Sega Genesis? I picked this system up in, I think it was the end of the 8th grade, and I picked it up with Golden Axe and with Altered Beast and Revenge of Shinobi, and so those were the games that I had to kick it off with, and I was in love with it. Blew my mind. It was head and shoulders way better than the NES that I grew up playing on. The graphics were arcade quality. Had so much fun with it. I love the design of it, and I think that for me the Sega Genesis is probably my favorite console to collect for and to own. Great question, thank you. So Turbo Joe Old School Gaming wants to know, if you were to create your own video game, what type of genre would you make? And pick it. We grew up during one of the most competitive console races of all time, Sega Genesis or SNES. If you could only keep one, well, I think I've answered that one already. It's going to be the Sega Genesis for me. I do love Super Nintendo, but the Sega Genesis will always be my first love. I love that system. And I would be sad to see the Super Nintendo go, but Sega Genesis I think is where it's at for me. So if I were able to create my own video game, what genre would I make it? I think I would create something similar to one of the Grand Theft Autos and make it so that it's like a living almost that never turns off, where you can buy like an MMORPG type of game. A criminal one though, kind of like a Grand Theft Auto one. I think I would create something like that, but it would be cool. No microtransactions, no unlockable characters or stuff like that. You would get everything or there would be a way to earn it in game, but you wouldn't be able to just buy it. You know what I mean? Anyways, thank you, Turbo Joe. This next question is from Back in the Day Gamer, and Back in the Day Gamer wants to know, what is your favorite Eazy-E song? He was once a thug from around the way. Easy! It's gotta be Easy Does It. I mean, that song has everything, right? Nintendo25 wants to know, what is your fondest gaming memory? And that is playing at the pizza parlor, at the arcades that the pizza parlors used to have. We used to have one called the Pizza and Pipes over where I grew up in, and loved that place. It was an excellent place to have fun. I mean, what's not to love about pizza and video games? And you had it all in one place. And they had a bunch of, organ pipes there too. That was, every time I used to go there, it was just fun moments, fond memories have playing over there. And sadly, the arcades are long gone. They're more of a novelty now, but back in the day they were everywhere, and I think that's my fondest gaming memory, is growing up in the arcades. Great question, thank you. Let's see, Grog Games wants to know, what video game character do you associate yourself with most? Similarities, empathy-wise. I think that lately I've been feeling myself as a lot like Geralt of Rivia, kind of an old dude, kind of crotchety, kind of, hunting for adventure, and, really wants to get money, and, he's kind of a good guy, but kind of a bad guy. There's a yin and a yang there, definitely. So I think I relate to Geralt of Rivia these days. And that's not just because of the Witcher Netflix movie, but I really like that character. I think they did something special with it, and I think that Henry Cavill does a great job with it. Great question, thank you very much. Leggy wants to know, congrats dude, what made you start a YouTube? Well, great question, Leggy. I think that what made me start a YouTube was watching YouTube. I used to watch GameSack and the Game Chasers quite a bit, and I loved watching these shows. I still love watching those shows, and I kind of thought, what, I can probably do this too. I have a passion for creating things, and I think that maybe I can make something like this as well. And so, I really wanted to try it, and what better time, because my daughter was bugging me to open a YouTube page, and she has a gacha YouTube page, and she's over 2,000 subscribers on her page. But seeing her open up the page kind of kicked me in the butt and said, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. I'm gonna start a YouTube page, and using that inspiration and just getting pumped up watching GameSack and the Game Chasers made me want to start a YouTube channel, and that's really why I wanted to start it. And ever since I started it, I'm so glad I did. I have met so many great people out there, and it's been quite an adventure. And I hope to continue it for as long as I can till the wheels fall off. Thank you very much for that. The Button Bashers wants to know, if you could have any celeb feature on your channel, who would it be and why? Well, I think that I would like to play some games on the Big Retro Show with The Rock. And that's just because The Rock is, he's a great person to talk trash with, really. Anybody who grew up watching The Rock on TV knows that he would burn like every other wrestler just with his interviews. And I think it would be fun just to kick The Rock's ass at video games and then be able to talk crap to him. So I think I would love to have The Rock on there, just talking to him about like wrestling and about his movie career, maybe what retro games and retro movies he likes, and then maybe doing a let's play on one of these games and just kicking his butt so I can talk smack to him. Hopefully he doesn't give me, the people's elbow or anything like that, because I kick his butt at video games. But yes, that is definitely who I would want to have on the Big Retro Show. Galactic Happy Hour wants to know, if a toy company was going to make a Los action figure, what style would they be and what accessories would they come with? I think that it would obviously be a He-Man, right? I mean, look at this body, right? Is this a He-Man body or what? No, I'm just joking. I'm not He-Man body, but I think it would probably be a G.I. Joe style action figure, and the accessory that it had to have come with would probably be my dog Niner. My dog Niner is my boy. He is the favorite pet in the house, and he is the only other guy in the house. So I think that, you know, in the spirit of like Junkyard and Mutt, and in the spirit of Snake Eyes and the Timberwolf, I think it would be Los and Niner. Great question. Thank you very much for that, Galactic Happy Hour. That's Slim, by the way. My boy Retro Wolf wants to know, how do you personally keep yourself from being pulled into all the negativity and toxicity in the gaming community? Also, who would win in a fight? Bowser, Ganondorf, Dracula, Winnie the Pooh, or Mama Retro, and why? Well, I think the answer is pretty clear there, that Mama Retro would beat all of them. And that's because Mama Retro doesn't take any mess. She would layeth the smacketh down on all of their candy asses. And that is the truth. Now, for the toxicity part of the question. So there's been a lot of negativity and toxicity and a lot of drama, quite frankly, happening in the retro gaming community and in the gaming community too. And I think no community is immune from this type of drama. So your question is, how do I stay away from all of that? And I think that I am able to stay away from that simply because I'm a smaller channel and I only talk about things that, you know, I love. Video games, movies, toys, and music. And I think that, you know, a lot of us share common ground, right? I mean, a lot of us love video games. And I think that just sharing that common ground is enough for me to stay away from the negativity and just to try to keep it as positive as possible. That's not to say that, you know, all of the thoughts that I have and all of the videos that I do are going to be positive in the future. You know, I do have a series called My Unpopular Gaming Opinion, and I'm about to get real on some of those episodes. Hopefully I don't get too much hate from them. But yeah, you know, those are negative. Not quite on the scale that was happening in other parts of the gaming community, but you know, I see it going down. And you know, I can't lie, a lot of it is entertaining, right? I mean, that's why people do these kind of videos. But no, just for me personally, you know, I think that we share a common ground, and that is video games, and that's enough for me. You know, but I hope I answered that question. You know, it's really difficult to totally remove yourself from negativity because it's all around you, right? But I see this channel as a way for me to escape the everyday negativity that I get on a regular basis just by virtue of going to work every day, right? Anyways, thank you very much for that question. So Tasanya wants to know, what is it about the retro gaming genre that you love so much that you decided to focus your channel on it? Well, I've been playing games a very long time, ever since the days of the Atari 2600. And to me, it's every time I sit down in front of a retro game, every time I see a retro toy, retro movie from the 80s or the 90s, every time I listen to music, old school music, it takes me back. You know, these were all simpler times. The times that we're living in now, you know, they're great. You know, we have, you know, cell phones, we able to communicate a lot easier. You know, news travels, you know, at the speed of light now, it seems. But, you know, I think that we've lost something there. I think that, you know, the interpersonal connections that we used to have back in the day are no longer around us, right? I mean, everybody has the phone neck. You know, the neck where everybody's like looking at their phones and not really paying attention to each other. And I think that, you know, back in the day, you were able to just gather around a TV set and, you know, play a game and enjoy each other's company and talk trash to each other. And nowadays it's, you know, people will play a game and they'll look at their phone or they'll pause it and, you know, they'll be in, you know, a different world almost. And so I think that, you know, the retro gaming that I love so much, it takes me back there. It's totally a time machine for me, and I think that is the appeal, and that is why I started the Big Retro Show. It's because I love it. And yes, I might be looking at things through nostalgia-coated glasses, right? The nostalgia glasses that everyone wears. But, you know, I love those times. And, you know, I'm going to stay true to myself. And with that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. Here's to all of you guys for asking me a question. I will link your channels to the description of this video. Please make sure that you check out each other's channels and subscribe to them. This is how we grow, guys, and this is how we make friends on YouTube. And until the next one, guys, I will see you on the next Big Retro Show.